Well, Mary, you just finished up a guest arc on Justified a few weeks ago, a few months ago. We saw that. Tell us about this lady. She's really, even though we've seen her on about 3 episodes, she's really still a big mystery to us watching.
Yeah, she's a little bit, she's not so much a mystery to me, but what's going to happen to her is a mystery to me because it's being written, I think, as we speak. But she's just kind of bad to the bone. I don't know what else to say about her. I think she was the power behind the throne of a Southern crime ring. Everybody thought her husband was in charge. He was really the sort of mentor of Jerry Burns' character, and it really turns out that it was her all along that was calling the shots.
Well, as they introduced her and talked about her over those episodes, especially, we find out that she's got a real history with some of these law enforcement people that we know very well.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed the scene in the police station, and clearly there's no love lost between us. So how that's going to manifest, really, your guess is as good as mine. One of the things that's so exciting about doing a show like that is that it's very much a sort of living, breathing, morphing creature. Certainly the style is so Elmore Leonard, but the what's going to happen now is really up to this wonderful team of writers, and I like them and I trust them and I have fun working with them, and so I'm going to dive in there and find out what's going on myself.
Well, with it being a final season too, really anything could happen to anybody at any moment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the most fun scenes I've ever shot was the cigarette packet scene with Walton Goggins, and if that's a taste of what's to come, I'm sure there's going to be some interesting days on the set where I come home, covered in blood and say hello to Ted Danson, who has been on CSI all day, so it's kind of an interesting household.
They almost needed to bring him in to dissect what happened there.
Exactly, exactly.
Tell us about shooting that scene. I wanted to bring that up today. That was a shocking scene as an audience member.
Yeah, it was. It was just, some of it, of course, is very technical, and you have to kind of save the big stunt part of it for the end of the day, because once that happens, we're all a mess, afterwards. And so we did everything leading up to it. And I know at one point we were trying to figure out, what is your reaction when, a cigarette packet goes off and completely blows up in the chest of someone? I've never been in that situation, nor even contemplated it before. So Jerry Burns and I kind of went through the gamut of, shock to hysteria to try to get there. And the thing that was so fun, and actually a friend of mine who's a huge Justified fan said his favorite line in the whole thing was when I said, "Lock the door." It's like, but it tells you something about her, that's her first instinct.
It sounds like she's very much a survivalist and is always knows what to do next.
Yeah, and whatever's on the outside of that door is even worse for her than sitting there with this kind of smoking dead body. She has no love for the law, clearly.
Tell us about working with Walton Goggins. We've interviewed him a couple of times, and he is definitely, this character, Boyd, is one of the most interesting characters, I think, in recent TV history.
I agree. I think he's extraordinary. He took a character that really could be, and is, in some ways, despicable. And because he's such an extraordinary actor and he inhabits that character so fully, you come to know this creature and you kind of fall in love with him. And of course, that's the beauty of really good acting. Nobody's all one way or all the other way. And that's what's kind of great about this series, is that there's the good guys have so much bad in them, the bad guys have so much good in them, and it's just really delicious to play with that kind of writing. But he's so interesting. I've only done about, I guess, about 3 scenes, maybe 4 with him, but each time he comes in hungry to find a way to make it the very best it can be, and if that means stopping everything, as it did actually the day we shot that scene, we had to make some changes in it, and we all went into a room and just talked through the scene. And one of the things I love about Justified is that everybody's into that. Nobody's ego is so precious, or the word's so precious that you can't work together to make it better. And that kind of work can be abused, because I've seen actors think they're improving on writers' words, and it drives me crazy, because I love writers and I know how long it takes them to sit and make something the very best it can be. But on Justified, every once in a while you'll just bump up against something because of the technical aspects of it, and just even the blocking of a scene like that, and you'll say, you know what, we need to rethink this. And Walton's the kind of actor that just won't rest until it's at its best, and I love that. I love how much he cares. There's no part of him that's phoning it in. It's not 6th season coasting on my laurels. He's diving in there, and it's pretty great.
Well, for Justified, Mary, you're not really known for your villainous roles. How did they think about you for this part?
I asked them that question when they called me, and what they said was it was important to them that whoever this was be able to be comfortable with comedy, or a comedic overtone that certainly is a part of Leonard's writing. And so I that's all I know about the process that led them to me, but I'm really glad they asked me.
Probably didn't hurt that you're kind of from that neck of the woods, Arkansas, Kentucky, not too far apart.
Yeah, certainly. I'm a Southern soul, quite different from Catherine Hale, very different life. But we talked a little bit about who she was before she made herself into what she is now, and I certainly could find ideas that made me really relate to her. And it's
You've
nice.
certainly known strong women in your life, strong Southern women.
Well, I do love my Southern women in my life. My mother, my aunt, my sister, and yeah, and certainly just women I grew up with. So there's lots to draw from.
Well, you've already said the magic words to me, because I'm a big fan of the show, and I hoped they didn't bring you on just for 3 episodes this year, not to bring you back next year. And it sounds like you're going to have a pretty decent presence for this final season.
Yeah, I'm going to be very much there on this next season, and I'm excited to see which way we're going to go. And I'm a fan of this show too. I have to say I came late to the party, and then became really hooked, because it's just so much fun to watch such great actors having fun with extraordinary material.
I want to talk a little bit about your career. Of course, you won an Oscar for Melvin and Howard back in 1980, and I rewatched that acceptance speech just a little while ago because I wanted to see it again. And one of the first things you said was you're going to have to come up with a new dream now. Tell me about that night.
It was 81 actually, for 1980, but it occurred in 81, and I'm very clear on that date because I had my first child a couple of months before that. And to be honest with you, part of me was very preoccupied with being a brand new mom and leaving my baby for the first time for a few hours. And part of me, certainly desperately wanted this, and part of me was scared of it. And um, it was very magical, and I was still very much focused on being a brand new mom, and it was the first time I ever left my child to go away for a few hours, and so I had that kind of heightened bit of drama to it. Not to mention that, of course, like everybody else, I really hoped I would win, and I wasn't at all sure if I would. I had won a Golden Globe and wonderful critics awards, but the film had not really been seen by most people, and there were much more commercial films up against it, and people from those films up against me. So I had no idea if I would win or not.
That experience over 30 years ago, and you've been to award shows obviously since then, especially in the last decade, that whole thing has changed so much, right? With just the coverage and the red carpets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I bought my dress off the rack. I'm probably the only person who's ever won who essentially wore flats, because I just did. And I didn't have a hair and makeup person come to my house. I just kind of, went there, and at the last minute I stuck this big flower in my hair. It was so not thought out. It was so not polished. It was not, no deal with a designer or anything like that. It was just a little off the rack dress and a coat that I'd found in an antique store in London from the 1930s. And that was the way it was then. And now I think they are under so much more pressure. And there's, the best awards I've had in a long time were for things like The Help, where it was a group, and we just can have a laugh together, because there's so much intensity about all that stuff now.
Well, I want to come back to the Oscars in a second, but the SAG Ensemble, all of you win together, which I love that prize. I mean, I just think as an actor, I mean, you've got to really love the fact that there's an ensemble prize within the Screen Actors Guild.
It's one of my favorite nights ever. It was just a magical night, and I love those women. I love that there were so many women in the film. I just thought they were all magnificent. I really played, kind of a small part in it, but it was a joy to work with all those guys in The Help, and it was an extraordinary night, and the book was wonderful and the film was wonderful, and we were all, just jumping for joy.
Well, we're an awards website. That's why I wanted to focus on this a little bit. Back to your Oscar win. That was your third film. So just really starting out on your career. When you see other people in a similar situation, like this year, Lupita Nyong'o, her film debut, or Jennifer Hudson 3 or 4 years ago, or other people that are really just getting started and they win such a big prize, do you feel for them? Do you want to give them some advice on where to, kind of where to take this?
I don't know if I'm qualified to give advice, because I think in many ways I didn't handle it very well. It was too much for me, and various things that were going on in my life. It was all a bit too much for me, and I really kind of ran away from all of it. I moved a few hours outside of Los Angeles, and I didn't really do much press, and I didn't capitalize on the Oscar at all in terms of trying to find the right script. I really ran away from it, so I probably wouldn't give someone else that advice to do that. I think they seem to handle it, most of them, certainly the wonderful actors you named, are all kind of negotiating the waters very gracefully. Um, I didn't so much. It was, I think in some ways, I, I love what I do for a living, and some of the stuff that comes with it, I was a little shy for. It was a bit much for me, and so um, I kind of ran away, and then that probably, I know that I was criticized for it from people who give you advice as far as careers. But I think looking back, I wouldn't change one single moment of it because it led me to the life I have now, which is where I want to be.
Well, very few people get to have a career like you've had. I mean, so many films, so many good TV shows. One of the perks, though, of winning an Oscar, being nominated for an Oscar, is you get to vote on them the rest of your life. And I've asked this question to a whole lot of Oscar voters in the past couple of years. And you don't have to give specifics unless you want to, but I'm just wondering, in your particular case, when you got that ballot in front of you, when you're nominating or when you're voting for the winners, what kind of goes through your mind? What are you looking for when you want to mark a particular name?
Well, I sometimes will vote for a performance that I know was hard for that person, that wasn't free flight. Yeah, sometimes I don't always agree with the kind of groupthink about certain performances, because sometimes I'm moved by a performance where someone took big risks for them, and I could see that it was them going somewhere they'd never been, and then sometimes I do go along with everybody else because the film is so irresistible, or because my experience of it was that I was taken away. And I think that is ultimately what I want, which is, I think, what most moviegoers want, that you escape for a few hours and that you go on a journey. And so I think I'm pretty typical, but perhaps I sometimes really look at it from how brave did this actor have to be, you know?
Yeah, I've heard different people in recent days, especially we've had on Whoopi Goldberg and Ellen Burstyn and some of those folks, and they've said similar, like, if it's out of that person's wheelhouse, if they didn't even know maybe that person was capable of doing that particular type of performance.
Yeah, I think so. And I think because we've all, we're not young, I think it's kind of delicious to watch someone keep growing as you get older, and to be surprising. I mean, that is one of my goals, is to not not try to get to the point where things need to be safer for me. I like to scare myself. According to my husband, I scare him too, but I like that. I like doing things I haven't done before, and I won't say that's always where I've been privileged to go, but it's where I'm looking to go.
I heard somebody, I can't remember who it was, a couple of years ago on a TV interview saying something kind of similar, saying that they didn't, if they picked up a script and go, I don't know if I can do that, that's the very script they should probably do.
Right, right. I think that's true. I think if there's a good, healthy dose of fear in there, it makes it more attractive to me. And I think that I'm in New York right now. When I came to New York, I came here to study with Sandy Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse, and everything about it was terrifying. I passed, actually, today. I passed the place where I first lived, and I looked at the street. I thought, that's the first street I ever walked up in New York, the first morning that I lived here, and it was this horrible place called the East End Hotel for Women, where you got a room and 2 meals a day for $42.50 a week. And it was, my view was a brick wall a few inches away. And I passed it today, and I thought, oh my God, how did that 18-year-old kid have the guts to leave Arkansas and come here to this place where she knew no one and she knew nothing of this culture, of this world, and I talk funny and I talk like this, and people made fun of the way I talked a little bit, um, and I just thought I really want to keep reaching for that same amount of courage as I age, in life, that I don't let myself get safe and go for the safe. And even if I fall flat on my face, and so I keep getting re-in touch. I get re in touch with that kind of goal.
As we finish up, I wrote down so many titles of so many great movies in your career. We don't have time to talk about them all, but I'm wondering, when a fan approaches you, you meet somebody at a party or something, what's the film that people most want to chat about? Can you tell when somebody's walking up which movie they're going to want to talk about, just based on their appearance?
Well, certainly, young guys want to talk about Step Brothers, which I'm really happy to talk about, because I have to say it was talk about something that was scary. It actually really was. So much of that film was improvised, and you're in a room with two, brilliant comedic heavyweights, and with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, and it was just it was scary at first to think, am I supposed to try to be funny like that? And then I consoled myself, no, you're supposed to actually try to make this real. And it was so much fun to do that, and such a privilege, actually, to work with those guys. But so certain guys come up about that, a little bit older, and they talk about either Parenthood or Back to the Future 3. If someone's kind of a little artsier looking, very often it's What's Eating Gilbert Grape, where I didn't have a huge part in that, but she was kind of a wonderful, delicious character. And then, then there's random things. Yesterday, somebody came up and was talking about Sunshine State, which is a film I made with John Sayles. There's just all kinds of. It's part of the fun of being this age, is that there has been a lot of material. There is an arc to my life, and I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to do this work. I cannot believe how lucky I am, and so there's the fact that there's all kinds of choices for people out there makes me happy.
Well, listen, thank you so much. We have enjoyed so many of the different things you've done in your career, and you're on the Emmy ballot this summer as Best Drama Guest Actress for Justified. Good luck with that. Maybe you can get back in that Emmy race.
Well, thank you. That would be so nice. I don't have an Emmy. I've never. My husband flaunts his, horribly flaunts his every day. So someday it would be very nice.
I could still remember when he won his first one. I don't know if you've ever seen this on the Emmy, maybe a clip or something, but he had been up, I think, 8 or 9 years in a row at the Emmys and not won, and they were actually teasing him on the ceremony, a couple hours before he actually won that night.
Yeah, I have to look at it sometime. It was before I knew him, of course, and I was a huge fan of Cheers. We used to go watch it with friends every Thursday night. It was destination TV at our house, and so I think it's very well deserved.
Well, you might just do it. We'll be watching for that in July when the nominations come out, and definitely can't wait to see you next season on the show.
I'm so honored to be on it. Thanks so much.